welcome to the course Network Security. I'm Dr. Munir Umar. Today we will be studying the physical layer security attacks and countermeasures. These are the contents of our today's lecture. First, we will have the introduction to physical layer security. Here we will discuss that why the physical layer security is as important as other layer security. Then the attack vectors and threats. So here we will have the comprehensive taxonomy of physical layer attacks. These include the eavesdropping, jamming, hardware tampering, and some other advanced attacks. Then the wiretapping and eavesdropping will be discussed. We have some other advanced topics also here to be discussed. So we will discuss these as per the fiber optics, copper cables, and also the wireless signals. Then the jamming and interference will be discussed. Both the active and passive attacks in all these will be discussed. After that, we will have the countermeasures and defenses, how the detect, prevent, and response systems can be made, uh, the sophisticated system against these attacks. All these will be discussed, and at the end, we will have the best practices and future directions. So, this lecture is divided into two parts. In the first part, we will cover the attack related topics, and in the second part, we will have the countermeasures and defenses. Let's start from the very foundation of network security, the physical layer. When we talk about security, most people immediately think of encryption, firewall, or authentication. But all of these actually depend on something much more basic, that is, the physical medium through which data travels. So, what is physical layer security? At layer 1, we are dealing with the actual transmission of raw bits, whether through copper cables, through fiber optics, or wireless signals. These bits are transmitted as electrical signals, light pulses, or electromagnetic waves. So, this layer is the foundation upon which all upper layer security measures depend. If the physical layer is compromised, then everything about it, that we say encryption, firewalls, access control, all these things can become useless. So, the security of physical layer is a kind of vital for securing the entire system. For example, if an attacker gains physical access to a cable or intercepts a wireless signal, they may capture data before encryption is even applied or bypass logical protection entirely. So, why does physical layer matters? We have three main points here. The first is the foundation of defense. If this layer is compromised, the entire network stake is at risk. Second is physical attacks are silent. They cannot remain undetected for months, even for years. And the third one is the impact is very high. A single breach at this level can expose all network traffic. Now let's briefly look into the transmission media. We have fiber optic cables, copper cables, and wireless media. The fiber optic cables, these use light pulses. They offer high bandwidth and low signal loss, but they can still be tapped if physically accessed. Like we can bend a fiber optic, so if a optic is bent, then it may degrade the transmission or stop working. So tapping attacks are possible with this type of media. Then copper cables, they carry electrical signals and are more vulnerable to electromagnetic interference and also eavesdropping. Like they are more vulnerable to noise. Under copper cables, we have coaxial cables and twisted pair cables. Third is wireless media. The nature of wireless signal is broadcasting. The wireless media uses radio signals which are naturally exposed, making them susceptible to interception, jamming, and man in the middle attacks. So, the critical insight here is that physical layer vulnerabilities can bypass all upper layer security. Like you can secure a system by using encryption, but if that system is jammed, that system is physically damaged, that system has a fiber optic and that is bended, so the encryption used for security will be useless. If an attacker taps a fiber cable or intercepts a wireless signal, they may gain access to data before any logical protection takes place. So, keeping in the mind, in the next part of lecture, we will explore the specific types of physical layer attacks and how attackers exploit these vulnerabilities. To understand why the physical layer is critical, let's look at the types of attack, the most prominent attacks that occur at this layer. We can broadly classify physical layer attacks into four main categories. These are eavesdropping, jamming, hardware tampering, and side channel. So each of these targets in the network in a different way, either compromising confidentiality, integrity, or availability, as we have studied about the CIA in our previous lectures. So the first one is eavesdropping. This is a passive kind of attack, meaning the attacker does not interfere with the communication, they simply listen. Eavesdropping mean secretly listening to communication between two parties. So the attackers intercept signals directly from the transmission medium. This can happen through tapping into fiber optic cables by bending or splicing them, capturing electromagnetic emissions, often referred to as tempest attacks, sniffing wireless signals over the air. The dangerous part in these attacks are very difficult to detect because they leave no obvious traces. Next is jamming. Unlike eavesdropping, jamming is an active attack. Here, the attacker disrupts communication by injecting interference into the signal. The goal is to not to steal the data, but to deny service, targeting availability. So Uh, this one is actually secretly listening. This is a kind of passive attack. Jamming is an active attack, and this one is used to disrupt the availability of a system. So the jamming includes in band jamming, where the attacker uses the same frequency of other devices installed in environment. The simple example is in mosques, our mobile phones they stop working because in the mosque jammers are installed, and these jammers they generate uh, same frequency just like of our cellular networks. So due to the same frequency, the actual frequency is overlapped with this one, and we get a very high ratio of noise, and our mobile phones stop working. Next is out of band jamming, targeting nearby frequencies. This is similar to in band jamming, but here the adjacent channels are also used. Next is the amplifier saturation attacks, where signals are overwhelmed. Jamming is usually easier to detect because users immediately experience signal degradation. Like they understand the systems when the systems stop working. As this is an active attack, so definitely the users can easily judge or can detect this thing. So users can immediately experience signal degradation or loss, but its impact is also significant, and it highly affect the availability of a system. The third one is hardware tampering. This is one of the most dangerous category. It involves physical modification or replacement of network devices to introduce malicious functionality. Examples include replacing legitimate devices with compromised one, modifying firmware of the devices, or installing hardware implants or backdoors. I'm giving you a simple example. Like we have a Wi-Fi access point named as ABC that is installed inside our organization. So what we do, what the attacker do, they install uh, another malicious access point with the same name, and that malicious is known as evil twin. So that evil twin access point can be used to access into our communication or into our data. These attacks are extremely serious because they can give attackers persistent and deep control over the system. That's why the severity is considered critical, and detection of such type of attacks is also very difficult. The fourth one is side channel attacks. These are more subtle and advanced attacks. Instead of attacking the communication directly, attackers exploit unintentional information leakage such as electromagnetic emissions, power consumption pattern, and timing variation. For example, by analyzing power usage, an attacker might infer cryptographic keys. These attacks require sophistication but are extremely hard to detect. So, They have high severity and extremely difficult detection. So, if we step back, we can see a pattern. Some attacks are passive and stealthy, like eavesdropping. Some are disruptive, like jamming. Others involve direct physical compromise, like hardware tampering. And some exploit hidden leakage, like side channel attacks. Understanding this taxonomy is important because each category requires different countermeasures, which we will discuss in the upcoming slides. Wiretapping, the silent threat. Now let's dive deeper into one of the most important physical layer attacks, that is wiretapping, also known as eavesdropping. This is often called a silent threat because it is extremely difficult to detect. Wiretapping at the physical layer means intercepting signals while they are in transit through the communication medium. Now, here's the critical distinction. Unlike logical or software based attacks, physical wiretapping does not leave digital traces. So we cannot detect these attacks easily. There are no logs, no alerts, and often no obvious signs of intrusion. Attackers simply exploit the natural behavior of signals. Light traveling through fiber, the electrical signals, they travel in copper, and the radio waves in wireless. So the attackers, they extract information without interrupting normal communication, which makes detection extremely challenging. Attack techniques by medium. Let's break this down based on the transmission medium. As we know, we have the fiber optics, copper cables, and wireless. In fiber optics, even though fiber is considered secure, it is still vulnerable. The micro bending causes very small signal leakage. Macro bending increases leakage slightly. Then clip on couplers can extract light without cutting the fiber. Like a clip is used that is connected with the fiber, and using that specific tool, the light can be, as we know that using light the data is transmitted, so that light can be extracted from the fiber. And then the control splicing allows insertion of tapping devices. Next, the copper cables. These are even more exposed. The inducive coupling captures magnetic fields. Capacitive couplings, they capture the electric fields. Crosstalk exploitation uses signal leakages between wires. Direct tapping physically connect direct tapping physically connects to the cable. Wireless is naturally the easiest to intercept. We have passive sniffing of signals in the air. Like the signal is available in the air, so you can easily sniff it. Use of directional antennas to capture signals from distance. Signal amplification to extend the interception range, like from long distance we can also access the wireless signal by using the amplifiers. Man in the middle attacks to actively intercept the communication. Now, the detection challenges. Why these attacks are so dangerous? The signal loss is extremely small, often less than 1%, which falls within normal fluctuations. The attack can be very short lived, lasting minutes to hours. In And importantly, the cost of equipment is relatively low, so making such type of attacks is also easy. Even though this amount is high, we can get the equipment with very low prices. So this combination makes wiretapping both practical and stealthy. The real world perspective. A well known example comes from disclosure by Edward Snowden, which revealed that intelligence agencies tapped undersea fiber optic cables. Specialized equipment was used to intercept massive volume of international data, all without being detected. This shows that even the most critical infrastructure is not immune. And the last thing is impact assessment. So, what happens if wiretapping succeeds? The first one is data exposure, complete capture of network traffic, including sensitive metadata. Next is service disruption. So, in some cases, the signal quality may degrade or services may be interrupted. Then, long term compromise. Attackers can maintain persistent access over long periods. Wiretapping is dangerous not because it's complex, but because it's invisible. Like we cannot detect wiretapping easily. It quietly bypasses traditional security controls and directly targets the foundation of communication. Now, the fiber optic vulnerabilities. It's a very common misconception in the network security. Many people believe that fiber optic cables are inherently secure. This belief This belief comes from the fact that fiber uses light instead of electricity and does not emit electromagnetic radiation like copper cables. However, this is important to know that this is actually a dangerous myth. Fiber optic communication can be tapped, and this has been demonstrated in both corporate espionage and government surveillance. So, why is fiber optic vulnerable? To understand this, we need to look at the physics. When light travels through a fiber, it is supposed to stay confined with the core. But in reality, when the fiber is bent or disturbed, some light takes out through the cladding. This leakage occurs due to what we call evanescent field coupling. Attackers exploit this natural behavior to extract signals without breaking the connection. So, some common tapping techniques. The first one is micro bending. Very slight deformation of the fiber causes tiny signal leakage, often less than 1%, which is almost undetectable. Then macro bending. Larger bends extract more light, typically 1 to 3% loss, still within normal operational threshold. Like these cannot be detected. Even the macro bending, that this is also undetectable. Then clip on couplers. These are commercial devices that clamp onto the fiber and extract light without cutting the cable. These devices are available and the attackers can use these devices to extract the light from the fiber optics. Then we have the PON network vulnerabilities, passive optical networks. In modern access networks, especially passive optical networks, the risk increases further. Why? The first thing is broadcast nature. All users receive the same downstream signal. Next is the shared infrastructure. Multiple subscribers share the same fiber. And third is physical access points. Splitters and distribution frames create easy tapping locations. So, without proper encryption, one user could potentially observe another user's data. Real world evidence. This is not just theoretical. Intelligence agencies have conducted large scale fiber tapping operations. NSA, that is National Security Agency in USA, and GCHQ, Government Communication Headquarters, UK. There are also documented cases of corporate espionage where competitors intercept fiber communications. This clearly shows that fiber is not immune to attack. Now, if we look into the practical reality, another important point is that the cost of tapping equipment is relatively low, and installation also takes just a few minutes. This makes fiber tapping not only possible but also practical for attackers. So, at the end, we can say fiber optics are not inherently secure, they are just harder to attack but still vulnerable. Security must be designed and enforced, not assumed because not assumed based on the medium. Now, jamming attacks. In our previous slides, we discussed the eavesdropping, that is a passive attack and that violates the confidentiality by looking into the confidential data of the users. Jamming attacks, these are actually active attacks, and these attacks are used against the availability. Jamming attacks focus on denial of service. So these attacks can be used to make the networks unavailable to legitimate users. In jamming attacks, high power interference signals are generated, so the attackers degrade or completely block the legitimate transmission. The signals generated by the attackers, they in fact interfere with the legitimate signals. We can say that both the signals from attacker and the normal users, they overlap with one another. So in this way, the legitimate users cannot access the services. Jamming exploits the fundamental vulnerability of shared media. As we know that the wireless media is shared by many, so signals occupy the same physical space, and stronger interference overwhelms legitimate communication. In optical networks, this means reducing OSNR below acceptable threshold. R stands for optical signal to noise ratio. The jamming categories. There are two categories, the in band jamming and out of band jamming. So let's start with the in band jamming, that is also known as the shouting method. The attacker injects a high power light signal on the exact same wavelength, that is the frequency, as the legitimate data signal. Think of this like trying to have a conversation while someone is blowing a loud whistle right next to you. Legitimate signal gets drowned by the noise. High power is required for this type of attack. To be effective, the noise must be significantly stronger than the data signal to ensure the receiver cannot distinguish between the two. Because the power level of that specific channel spikes unusually, network monitoring tools like an optical power meter will immediately flag an anomaly. Like the detection is easy by using some tools like OPM, optical power meter. Next is the out of band jamming. This is also known as Subble method. The attacker targets adjacent channels or the physical hardware like amplifiers rather than the specific wavelength being used for data. This is most dangerous part. The optical amplifiers used in long haul fiber have a limited gain bucket. If an attacker floods a nearby unused wavelength with massive power, the amplifier spends all its energy on the junk signal. So, in this way, the legitimate data signal is reduced, or we can say the power of legitimate data signal is uh, reduced. Cross channel interference. High power loud in one channel can bleed into others through a phenomena called crosstalk. And this is also important to know that it is harder to detect because the data channel itself might look normal, but the overall system performance is degraded by crashing. It is much harder for automated system to pinpoint the source of the failure. Impact on network components. Here we have three: the wavelength division multiplexing, the erbium doped fiber amplifier, and the reconfigurable optical add drop multiplexer. So let's start with the WDM systems. These explain that modern fiber carries dozens of colors. As you know that in fiber optic the light travels, so this light can have different colors, and these colors are known as wavelengths. So the modern fiber carries dozens of colors of light at once. An attack on one wavelength can bleed into others through cross channel interference. Like attack on one color will also affect the remaining colors in the same fiber optic, and that would be the cross channel interference. A signal jammer doesn't just kill one stream, it can degrade the capacity of the entire fiber optic. The next is EDFA amplifier. This is a critical point. Optical amplifier have a fixed gain. If a jammer injects a massive light, the amplifier focuses on all its power on that noise. So the legitimate data signals strive for power. Pushing an amplifier too hard creates harmonic ghost signals that further degrade the real data. Next is ROADM, the reconfigurable optical add drop multiplexer. It is the brain of optical mesh. It routes wavelengths to different cities. High power interference can confuse the switching fabric. If the interference is like if it is strong enough, the interference is strong enough, it can cause misrouting, where the data is physically sent to wrong destination, or that is dropped entirely. Because these nodes are interconnected, So a failure at one node can cause can affect performance on other nodes or on the entire routes automatically. So the math of destruction, the power requirement. Now if we focus on the bottom bar chart, then we can say to jam uh, in band you need a lot of power, especially like shouting louder than the signal. It's effective but very loud and easy to find. Then for the out of band, it highlight the negative number. An attacker needs significantly less power to cause damage out of band because they are exploiting the sensitive physics of amplifiers rather than fighting the signal directly. So the threshold, both methods aim to drop the OSNR, that is optical signal to noise ratio, below 9 decibels. Once it hits that floor, the bit error rate becomes so high that the connection is effectively damaged, or we can say that it is effectively dead. Imagine if someone could steal your data without hacking your network, without malware, without any spyware, or without touching your system, but just by listening to the signals your device leaks. That's exactly what Tempest and side channel attacks are about. Tempest stands for Transient Electromagnetic Pulse Emission Standard. It refers to the study of unintentional signals emitted by electronic devices. Like we are using different type of devices, computers, keyboards, monitors. Lots of devices are used in our daily life. So all these devices, they leak information through electromagnetic waves, sound, and even through visible light. These leaks are called emanation. Even a system is secure at the software level, like a keyboard emits unique electromagnetic patterns. These patterns can reveal keystrokes. A monitor emits signals. Attackers can reconstruct what's on the screen. The network cables leak signals. They transmit data, and that transmit data in the form of electromagnetic waves can be read. So attacker don't need network access. They just need to capture these signals. Types of emanations. We have electromagnetic, acoustic, and visible light. Electromagnetic. comes from CPU's memory cables, can be captured from 10 to 100 meters away. This is a very big number. So this is possible. Practically, it is possible. So for this purpose, some specialized equipment can be used. So like for example, reconstructing the screen contact. Like on screen, we have some content, so we can reconstruct that content from the EM signal. Acoustic, that is sound based, sounds from keyboards, hard drives, power supplies. Each key produces a slightly different sound. This is somehow practical, though it's quite difficult. So the attackers can record typings, uh, sounds. They can identify keystrokes using AI or signal analysis. The visible light, LEDs on routers or devices blink based on data. So high speed cameras can capture this blinking. The attackers, they can actually, the exact data capturing is not possible. However, the attackers, they can decode the data patterns and the transmission activity. Like the attacker can know that what is the frequency of data now being transferred, whether high data volume is transferring or the router is idle. So in this way, they get some sort of information about the usage or activities within the network. So the Tempest has some classification levels. These are security standards define how well equipment is protected. The level A, highest security, protection up to 100 plus meters, used in highly sensitive environment. Then level B, that is medium security, protection up to 20 meters. And level C states that the protection can be up to 1 meter. Real world implications. We have government facilities, the sensitive locations like SCIFS, the sensitive compartmented information facilities. They require Tempest rated equipment and shielding. So they need shielded rooms and Tempest certified equipment. In this way, they can prevent spawnage. Then financial institutions like banks, trading systems, they must protect the transaction data and their communication systems. So they prevent against the financial fraud via the signal interception. Third is healthcare. Medical devices and patient systems emit signals. Data leakage could expose sensitive patient information. So, why this matters? Traditional cybersecurity focuses on firewall, encryption, authentication, and similar other tools, but Tempest shows even a perfectly secure system can leak data physically. Now, simple example of this case. If I cover all network access, disconnect Wi-Fi, and secure the system, is it safe? No, because the device is still leaking the signal. It's the nature of all the electronic devices, even the copper cables, that they leak signals. They generate electromagnetic fields.